Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. Nine Afghan security force members have been killed in a helicopter crash in central Medan Vardak province. The Defense Ministry says a probe is underway into the Mi-17 crash, but a provincial official told reporters the helicopter was hit by a rocket while taking off. Russia has recalled its U.S. ambassador for talks to prevent the irreversible deterioration of relations with the United States. The Russian government says Anatoly Antonov was called back as ties with Washington have reached a blind ally. Earlier, U.S. President Joe Biden called Vladimir Putin a killer. He said Putin will pay the price for meddling in the 2020 presidential election. Brazil has reported its highest number of daily COVID-19 cases since the pandemic began, with 90,300 cases overnight. Pakistan has registered its largest single-day surge as months, as nearly 3,500 people tested positive in the last 24 hours, while 61 lost their lives overnight, pushing the toll to over 13,700. Globally, there are 2.6 million deaths and more than 121 million infections so far. In Mali, 33 soldiers were killed and 14 others wounded in an attack on a military convoy in the northeastern Gao region. In a statement, the army said 20 assailants out of around 100 were killed. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. Prime Minister Mark Rutte has claimed an overwhelming victory in national elections in the Netherlands. Exit polls show Rutte's Liberal Party has won the most seats in Parliament after the socially distant three-day vote. Rutte's ally, the pro-EU D66, emerged as the second largest party. And in football, Bayern Munich have cruised into the quarterfinals of the Champions League with a 6-2 aggregate win over Lazio. Robert Lewandowski was on the score sheet yet again as Bayern edged Lazio 2-1 in their second leg of the knockout stage. And these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We'll start from Afghanistan, where 9 Afghan security force members have been killed in a helicopter crash in central Medan Vardak province. The Defense Ministry says a probe is underway into the Mi-17 crash. But a provincial official told reporters the helicopter was hit by a rocket while taking off. Meanwhile, in Kabul, 3 civilians have been killed while 11 others injured in a blast targeting a bus carrying government employees. The Afghan Information and Technology Ministry says they were renting the bus, but a ministry advisor, Abdul Samad Hamid Poya, said it was unclear at the moment who the victims are. No group has claimed the responsibility for the attack so far. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has appointed John Arnault as his personal envoy on Afghanistan. The veteran French diplomat will also assist the UN chief on regional issues. UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said the appointment will assist in achieving a political solution to the conflict. In a statement, Dujarric said Arnault will work closely with the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan and regional partners. He added the United Nations aims to best support the people of Afghanistan in reaching peace. Meanwhile, China, United States, Pakistan, Qatar and Afghan delegations are set to meet in Moscow to discuss the Afghan peace process. Now, Russia has recalled its U.S. ambassador for talks to prevent the irreversible deterioration of relations with the United States. The Russian government says Anatoly Antonov was called back as ties with Washington have reached a blind alley. In a statement, a foreign ministry spokesperson said the Kremlin will consult with Antonov to figure out what to do next. Earlier, United States President Joe Biden called Vladimir Putin a killer. He said the Russian president will pay the price for meddling in the 2020 presidential election. His remarks followed an intelligence report accusing Putin of authorizing an interference campaign in U.S. polls. Now, Brazil has reported its record high number of daily COVID-19 cases, with 90,300 testing positive overnight. Globally, there are over 2.6 million deaths and more than 121 million infections. More on the virus in this report. Record spikes in deaths and cases and mutating variants are making the second COVID March even more devastating. In the United States, 2 strains first detected in California state were officially declared as variants of concern. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's administration announced a new $2.25 billion initiative to address health equity issues related to COVID-19. Over in the South, Chile recorded an alarming increase in hospitalizations amid reports that the vaccination drive encouraged the public to disregard SOPs. Meanwhile, medical staff in Brazil's Sao Paulo state are facing increasing pressure as cases rise to record highs.
There is a waiting list at practically all hospitals with ICU beds, as people know. This creates a problem for health workers because we are already tired. And we have been doing this for a year now, so it causes additional stress. The stress of knowing that we are not helping everyone who needs us. The stress of knowing that when a patient leaves, I already have 4, 5, 6 or even more patients. Depending on the hospital you are in, your queue is bigger or small. But there are always waiting lists at all hospitals.
The European Union is considering allowing its 450 million people, vaccinated or not, to travel freely across the bloc within months. Poland has announced nationwide restrictions as the daily tally of new cases reached the highest levels this year. Meanwhile, Britain is set to see a glitch in its vaccination drive due to a cut in the manufacturing supply. Foreign Minister Dominic Raab accused the European Commission of brinkmanship over its threat to ban exports of COVID-19 vaccines.
Well, I think it takes some explaining because the world's watching. We've, all of us, including with our European friends, been saying throughout the pandemic that it would be wrong to curtail or interfere with lawfully contracted supply. We all said it last year on PPE. We've been saying it this year on vaccines and other things.
Over in Asia, Japan has approved a plan not to extend the state of emergency imposed in Tokyo, set to expire on 21st of March. Taiwan has completed checks on its first batch of AstraZeneca vaccines, and the first administrations may start soon. Pakistan's Minister of Planning and Development says there has been a sharp spike in COVID-19 cases in the country. In a tweet, Asad Umar said the number of hospitalizations and people in critical care is increasing fast. Umar said if SOP compliance does not improve, the government will be forced to place stronger restrictions. Now, this comes as Pakistan registered its largest single-day surge in months, as nearly 3,500 people tested positive overnight. The Health Ministry said 61 people lost their lives to the virus in the last 24 hours. It said the number of deaths has risen to 13,717. The ministry added nearly 616,000 cases have been detected so far, out of which more than 577,000 people have recovered. Now, in Mali, 33 soldiers were killed and 14 others wounded in an attack on a military convoy in the Gao region. In a statement, the army said 20 assailants out of around 100 were killed. It said the assailants ambushed the procession in the country's volatile north. The army said the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali helped evacuate the wounded soldiers, while the French mission helped secure the area. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. Now, Prime Minister Mark Rutte has claimed an overwhelming victory in national elections in the Netherlands. Exit polls show Rutte's Liberal Party has won the most seats in Parliament after the socially distant three-day vote. Rutte told reporters in Parliament that voters have given his party an overwhelming vote of confidence. Being one of the longest-serving prime ministers in Europe, Rutte said he has the energy to serve for another 10 years. His ally, the pro-EU D66, emerged as the second-largest party. Meanwhile, the party of Islamophobe and xenophobic leader Geert Wilders lost ground to move into the third place. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the US will consider both diplomatic and pressure options against North Korea. Now, this comes hours after Pyongyang ruled out any talks until Washington changed its hostile policies. Blinken said Washington will complete its North Korea policy review in the coming week. He made the remarks at a briefing after a meeting with South Korean officials in Seoul. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was also present at the meeting. In a joint statement, both sides vowed to work together on issues including climate change, the pandemic and North Korea. Earlier, Pyongyang criticized Washington's attempts to make contact, calling it a cheap trick. Moving on now, representatives of 14 Palestinian factions have signed a code of honor to accept the results of the upcoming parliamentary elections. The groups, including Fatah and Hamas, agreed to strengthen national unity in the second round of intra-national dialogue in Egypt. In a statement, the leaders said they will ensure high transparency for the electoral process in the Palestinian territories. They also agreed on completing the formation of Palestinian unified leadership on popular resistance. President Mahmoud Abbas announced to hold legislative, presidential and national councils elections in Palestine after 16 years. Now, as elections are fast approaching in Iran, President Hassan Rouhani has accused hardline opponents of obstructing efforts to lift US sanctions. His statement comes after hardliners said the curves are proof that Rouhani's policy of reaching out for enemies was a failure. In a televised remarks, he said the US is willing to return to the nuclear deal, but Tehran wants to see action from Washington in this regard. Rouhani said it is a great betrayal with the nation if any faction or personal delays the end of the sanctions even for an hour. The president urged the small minority of opponents to stop its destructive act. Now, moving on, in the U.S. state of Georgia, a white gunman has been charged with killing 8 people at an Atlanta area massage parlor and 2 spas. 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long told police that Tuesday's attacks were not racially motivated. But police said it is still too early to rule out a racist bias in the attack, in which 6 Asian women were killed. Atlanta mayor says the suspect was headed to the Florida perhaps to carry out additional shootings when he was arrested. State Representative B. Goyan said the shootings appear to be at the intersection of gender-based violence, misogyny and xenophobia. The latest violence comes amid a sharp uptick in crimes against Asian Americans. More news coming up in this news bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, skydiving is considered to be one of the world's most thrilling sports. However, 2 Polish daredevils have gone an extra mile and created an aerial competition utilizing the sport and skateboarding. Details in this report. Maja Kuchanska and her compatriot race pilot Lukasz Czepelia put their own unique spin on a skateboarding classic. The result is an incredible aerial competition called the Game of AIR. In the mountains of Slovenia, Kuchanska jumped from a plane equipped with just a skydiving suit and a parachute, while Czepelia flew right next to her in his extra 300 plane.
Well, the Game of AIR is something that we came up, and it's aerobatic aircraft doing tricks against the skydiver. I don't think something like this has been done ever before. There's been aerobatic aircraft flying around skydivers, but they were in the wingsuit. So to do it with someone who doesn't have a wingsuit on and has much higher vertical rates.
The pair simultaneously performed spectacular aerobatic maneuvers in a bid to outdo each other. AIR is based on the game of skate, where the participants set tricks for each other to complete. A mistake results in the participants gaining one letter from the word, and the first one to get all letters loses.
The game of air was inspired by the game of skate, which is a very popular game amongst skaters. It involves two people, or I guess more people, where they compete against each other and they show a trick, and after that trick the other person tries to do the same trick, and if they do not work out, they get one letter from the word. So in the skater version there's the word skate, we have the word air, and I'm pretty excited.
It was pilot Jepelia who lost this time around, failing to complete a flip twist and collecting the letter R. Hollywood star Johnny Depp will seek permission to appeal his defeat in a London libel case last year. The US actor sued a UK tabloid over an article which labelled him a wife beater. The London High Court had ruled that Johnny Depp violently assaulted his ex-wife Amber Heard during the 5-year relationship. Depp's lawyer said the judge relied on Heard's testimony and rejected evidence presented by police officers and other witnesses. Depp's legal team will apply for permission to appeal and to rely on further evidence. The hearing will be live-streamed on the Court of Appeal's YouTube channel. Depp has also filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against Heard in a Virginia court over an opinion piece she wrote. Asia-Pacific markets have broadly advanced except for the Australian bourses. Investors are reacting to a decision by the U.S. Federal Reserve Policy Making Committee to keep short-term borrowing rates near zero. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is leading the gains, rising over 1.5%. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 has also ascended over 1%. South Korea's Kospi has added over 0.5%, while the shares in mainland China have edged up marginally as well. However, Australia's ASX 200 has dipped over 0.5% under the flat line. And now let's have a look at how the weather is doing around the world. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Take care.